Welcome to the Home Builder Digital Marketing Podcast. Over 90% of today's home buyers start their buyer journey online. Here we talk with not only industry experts, but also your fellow home builder marketers to learn how you can succeed in our incredibly competitive digital world. And now, here are your hosts, Greg Bray and Kevin Weitzel.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Home Builder Digital Marketing Podcast. I'm Greg Bray with Blue Tangerine.
And I'm Kevin Weitzel with Outhouse.
And we are excited today to have joining us on the show, Bryan Keve. Bryan is the owner at Traditions Custom Builders. Welcome, Bryan. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day.
Well, Bryan, why don't we start and just help people get to know you a little bit? Give us that kind of quick introduction and overview of who you are.
Sure. Well, as you guys said, my name is Bryan Keve. I own Traditions Custom Builders. We're a boutique, high-end residential design build operation. We wear a lot of hats in what we do. We're a team of 7. I started the company back in 2021, and we've kind of worked our way to the point where I feel we're at a good place. And our main focus for what we do is high quality, low volume. Our goal is to build the very best 8 to 10 to 12 homes a year, really focused on quality and client experience as we work our way throughout the design and build process.
So before we dive into that, can you give us one little tiny tidbit about yourself, something personal that has nothing to do with the industry or home building or anything?
Yeah, of course. So grew up in the area that we work in now, went locally to Penn High School where I met my now wife. So we were high school sweethearts. And after I was at Notre Dame, she went to Indiana University. Then we spent about 5-6 years living in Chicago downtown. I was practicing as an architect at a firm in River North. She's a graphic designer. At the time, she was doing the graphics work for Second City Comedy Club, which a lot of people are familiar with. Then in 2015, life took us back here where we wanted to start a family. We've got 3 little kids, the 3-year-old, the 6 and the 7-year-old. So boy, girl, boy, they keep us very busy and involved with them in coaching and Boy Scouts and gymnastics, you name it, staying busy with them, and love being outdoors with our kids as much as we can. We spent this last summer putting in a pretty big backyard outdoor project that we love enjoying together as a family.
So, Bryan, you mentioned starting as an architect. Tell us about the leap from architect to custom design build and why you kind of went that direction and what drew you into wanting to actually do the building.
Sure. I've always found a strong draw towards the residential side. Going through the architecture school at Notre Dame, it's very classically, traditionally oriented. So high level of detail, focus on kind of some of the romantics in terms of studying Italian architecture, having the opportunity to live in Rome, Italy for a year is part of the program. And a lot of the students leave and go into more of the custom realm, a lot of the high-end realm. On the design side, I loved it. It was absolutely great, but I always had the itch to understand more of how things are put together. How are they built? And loved the site visit process. Always felt like it was a component that I wanted to get my hand into. So the opportunity presented itself when we moved back into town to start building homes here, which was really special to me, being able to kind of build the community that I grew up in. And it just kind of all started from there. So designing a little bit more modest homes than we're now building with Traditions, but being able to build homes for people in our community was really important to me. And having the design experience to be able to marry that with the love of the construction side made it a lot of fun. And it was a kind of a natural fit, especially when starting Traditions.
So with that Notre Dame flair, do you ever see Usonian ever coming back as a design to the home building industry or no?
I don't know. There's always a time and a place for everything, right? So from a design side, there's a strong lean, as a lot of people have seen, kind of towards that craftsman, modern flair. I'm sitting in a beautiful home we designed and built right now that's over just kind of in the shadow of the dome by Notre Dame. And this whole community that was built up in this area has a little bit more of a craftsman focus to it. It's interesting to see transitional design seems to be taking off a little bit now, where you're getting away from that modern farmhouse that was kind of hot and cold for a few years. But it's interesting to see we live in an area where you have a good balance of traditional homes, transitional homes, modern homes. And we feel like as a team, it's great for us to be able to flex our muscle a little bit and kind of touch each sphere from a design standpoint. We don't really want to pigeonhole ourselves into saying like, hey, here's the only types of homes that we do. So it's exciting to be able to offer both the design component and the build opportunity.
So tell us a little more, Bryan, about that moment of, I want to start my own company. And then that, oh, I need a client in order to do that because I've got a mortgage to pay and food to put on the table for these amazing 3 little kids. What's that kind of moment like for you when you think about taking that leap into your own adventure there, and what helped motivate you to take that leap?
Sure. I just always felt like I was wired to run my own operation. Love working in teams, having the opportunity to really try and pull together the most talented individuals possible. We want to offer as much of a special experience as we can for our clients. Someone had told me, how can you make your clients the hero of that journey? In the end, it's not about, hey, this is us and this is the home that we built. It's we're building someone's home. Let them be the hero of that journey, celebrate the moments throughout it and get into the end. And you've built someone's home. Taking that leap initially to start the company was certainly scary because you're looking at it, like you said, from that standpoint of, all right, I need to find clients. How am I going to get my name out there? How are we going to build the right team of people? What's the perfect number? That's the hard part that I think we're in right now because we're very blessed to have a lot of great opportunities in front of us. And I don't ever want to take on more than we can handle as a team, and nor do I ever want to take on more than our core can handle in terms of being able to touch every project in the same way. That's really, really important to me. I want to be involved in every project in the same way. I don't want to be just handing off, meet someone, lock things in and say, hey, team, you just take care of this. I do want to be involved in every single project along the way in a similar capacity. So that's something we're working at internally as a team. We want to develop as we grow, and how can we integrate systems. We're kind of in that phase right now. All right, we're beyond the startup phase, but I still feel like we're closer to startup than established, where we have learns every single day. We meet every single week as a team, and we're doing everything we can to polish our product as much as possible.
One thing that I've already noticed is you use the word client instead of buyer. That right there is a differentiator in an attitude, at least, of how you are approaching these projects, especially for someone who's working with a larger, more production-oriented kind of builder. It is much more about the product, and then, all right, let's go find a buyer. You're more about, let me find a client and work with a client who's a good fit, and then bring a home to life for them that matches. Was that a conscious choice that you made at some point, or did that just kind of happen naturally?
Yeah, I mean, it's always based on the relationship. Whether it's because we do finance 1 or 2 spec homes a year, even given the scale of the homes that we do, we find in the area that we're in, and really nationwide, I know there's a need for new construction. And even at the $1 to $2 million range, which is a substantial home in our area, we find that there are still folks throughout the year that either don't want to go through the process of the design, don't want to go through the process of the selections, or frankly don't have the time to do any of the above. And I need a house in 2 months or 3 months, or no more than 5 or 6. And the homes that we build take 9 to 10 to 12 plus months. And if someone's on their way here, whether it's for a high level role at the university, or work with a lot of doctors or lawyers, business owners, those types of things, where they just don't have that time, we want to be able to provide that. So to answer your question on buyer versus client, it's really relationship focused for us. I mean, you hit it on the head where you had mentioned it is a conscious decision, I think, for us to label our clients as clients, but it's also important to us. We want to select our clients just like they want to select us. We utilize the opportunity to meet with clients in the beginning, as I'll often tell folks, you're here interviewing me, but we're also interviewing you as clients. We want to make sure it's a good fit for both of us, because in the end, it needs to be a mutually beneficial relationship. It's something where we need to stand behind and believe in everything that we're putting in your home, and we need your faith and your trust and commitment to us as a team and to our process, to know that we're going to steward your dollars and your project along the best way we possibly can, in an effort to give you the most exceptional product in the end.
That brings up an interesting point. Granted, you're a relatively new company, but how often do you run into where a client could come in with a big pile of cash and it just isn't a good fit? They can afford whatever you can build for them, but it just isn't a good fit. Have you run into that yet or no?
Not yet. That would be a hard one to walk away from, but you hear of other opportunities that have existed in town or just in conversation with people in the industry where you just, oh my gosh, there was a red flag. There was a red flag. There was a red flag. We have a wonderfully exceptional project going on right now nearby. All of your houses are kind of like your kids. It's hard to pick one over the other, but we do have a particular project right now that does kind of stand above and beyond anything that we're doing currently. Could not say better things about our clients for that project. But you're right. If someone comes along and price isn't an object here, but it's not a good fit, that would definitely test anybody's resolve a little bit to be able to walk away from that. But we do have certain things that are important to us, certain things we won't compromise on. Those are the people that I find I separate ourselves from the most, where it's they may have the budget to build the house that we think it would take to do what they want to do in terms of a scope, but certain things that are kind of non-starters for us when it comes to structural elements, mechanical elements, the quality of certain things. If we have a client who's willing to sacrifice on certain quality related items, that's usually a pretty big red flag for us. I'm not saying you have to have gold plated toilets and everything be a crystal chandelier, but at the end of the day, it's ultimately one of those where we have to put our name as traditions on every single thing we put into this home. If clients don't align with us on the level of quality that we hope to deliver, that's where we find the biggest misalignment and ultimately the biggest red flag for us.
So it sounds to me, Bryan, that your reputation is one of your key marketing tools right now. And that's what you're trying to protect. When someone says they have a home from Traditions Custom Builders, it means X and will always mean X. And we have to protect that and can't let that change just because the buyer may not want X all the way. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, at the end of the day, we want the house to still be theirs. It's not our home. We're not going to impose, hey, you have to use this tile or these countertops or this and that. The finishes are an element of it that I don't want to say there's a little bit more flexibility on, because we do have a particular standard and level of finish that we want to build at. But good finishes also mean quality finishes. So those kind of live in parallel with one another. Honestly, one of the earliest things that's a signifier for me, as funny as it sounds, are windows. Right now it's 5 degrees outside with a negative wind chill of 15 or something like that. And I'm comfortably sitting in this house that we built that is not occupied by our clients. And so the heat isn't on all the time. And I'm sitting here comfortably in the living room with the temperatures outside. So using a quality element like that, I've always found that as a decent gauge. If someone doesn't feel particularly about that, I'm like, oh, maybe they haven't done their due diligence in terms of knowing what it takes to build a quality home. And maybe they just don't know, because that is our job as well. We see ourselves as educators and we feel like we're here to guide our clients through that journey. But if someone's willing to take multiple steps down on something like windows, I found like that's always a bit of a red flag for us, where we know maybe this isn't the best fit for our name and for our brand.
Now, I took the liberty of going and perusing your website, and obviously I went through your whole gallery, and not stroking your ego, but the imagery that you guys have, the photography you have, number one, is outstanding. And two, just the overall design is beautiful. The homes you guys build are amazing. But here's the question that I have, after that compliment. In today's day and age, with so many builders struggling with trying to maintain that level of trust, how are you establishing that trust with clients spending in that upper tier factor to draw them into you as a builder?
Sure. I think one of the most important things for us is talking about our process. Having multiple touch points by multiple people on our team is really important to us. So you're going to have me throughout the journey doing A, B, C, and D. My senior project manager is going to do these elements of the build. Our interior designer is going to do this. You're going to get touches from our estimator and internal project ops person on this. We're all meeting behind the scenes doing what's best for you as a client. And not only the team related stuff, the way we pull together our proposals, often I'll hear from clients is we've talked to 3 builders. There's no way to compare them apples to apples, because this builder's given us this builder's given us that. it's hard to compare you guys. How do we do it? And we'll often hear that other builders kind of slide a number across the table and it's a take it or leave it element. We've got a pretty substantial pricing proposal set up where it's 300 to 400 to sometimes even 500 line items where people really see what they're getting. There's a level of cost transparency, even at the scale of the homes that we're doing. I'll show people down to the construction dumpster and the construction toilet and the temporary locks that we put on your doors to secure the premises and the video surveillance of the project. You'll see there's budget allocations for mirrors and door stops and bath accessories and all the pieces and parts, so you can see, hey, when you get to the bottom, this isn't the smallest number to look at. And sometimes it's a little harder pill to swallow, especially given the change in our industry and the building climate over the last 3 to 5 years. That end number is definitely much higher than it would have been 3, 4, 5 years ago. But here's how we got there. And then it actually gives us the opportunity to establish a little bit of a dialogue and talk through that process. And you can see where people's priorities are. And I feel that level of transparency really builds a level of trust with our clients, and the level of communication we try and have with them. Email, text, phone. We utilize a project management software online throughout our builds that some clients interface with more aggressively than others, but that allows there to be some really great communication across the board.
You've hit on some really key points there. Maybe you didn't mean to, and maybe it's just the way you do it, right? But often when I talk, especially with custom builders, they don't always recognize that at its heart, you're selling two different things to a prospective client. The first is, of course, your ability to create their dream home, right? Look at what we've done. But the other piece that you hit on so eloquently is trust. You're selling them trust. We can get you from where you are today to this goal that you have of this home that you have in your head that you may not even be able to articulate yet what it is that it's supposed to be, and we're going to help you go through that whole thing. And so often, if we don't create that trust with all the things you've talked about, educating them, being open for their ideas, inviting them to share and showing them the process, introducing them to the people that you get to work with, all these things are trust building activities. They say, hey, this guy, Bryan, he's here for me to work with me. I feel good about that. That means we'll probably be able to get the home that I really want, because you're creating one-off unique products. You can't just go show them, look, here's the house, right? You can with an inventory home, right? Here's the house, but typically, no, you can't do that. They've got to trust that you can get them there. And I think you've hit on all kinds of things that you're doing that sound like they're working. Is that something that resonates with you that you're doing consciously, or is it just kind of the way that you are and this just kind of happened for you?
Yeah, I feel like we've tried to bake that into all of our processes. We're very visual, coming from a design and an architecture background. It's not just about the nuts and bolts and how does it go together. The interior side is really, really important. Being able to graphically represent any element throughout the build is, I think, also an asset that we have. I can sit across from someone, they just can't see it. A lot of times I feel like it's in cabinetry as we're looking in the kitchen design, and that's where I can really give a wonderful nod to the program at Notre Dame. It's a 5-year program, and in the first 3 years you don't touch a computer. Everything's done by hand, which is very atypical of the industry and very atypical of the architectural profession, where everything's hand drafted. Everything is pen on vellum or watercolored or this and that. And there's an appreciation for the details and how it all goes together. So, you can sit there and I don't understand this kitchen. All right. I'm drawing a kitchen cabinetry upside down while they're like, oh my gosh, I can see this coming to life. I can translate how you're thinking. I think I read it in a book or an article, and it was a really interesting concept. It kind of goes back to what you said about the process and having someone trust you throughout it. You see a build in kind of the good and the bad. You see the muddy, mucky job site days. You see the beautiful completion. And this is where the article came in. Home is one of the only consumer products that any consumer experiences the entire manufacturing process of. You think about the sweater you're wearing or the glasses on your face. This is a $59.99 sweater. You buy it off the rack, you try it on, but you didn't see the zipper being put together and all the components come together. In a house, you see the good, the bad, and the ugly. Something that I always tell to my clients is, I promise you there's no such thing as a perfect build. There will be something that will go wrong. something will happen, something will show up broken or the wrong thing. 9 times out of 10, we've already are working on the solutions for it before clients even see it. And they're not things that we pull the wool over a client's eyes. We're doing a walkthrough. Hey, like this window showed up and there was a crack in it. I just want to let you know that new one will be here in 4 to 6 weeks, but we've got it in right now. It's tacked into place, just so you're aware. These countertops came in. We saw a chip on this corner. It's something we've got them working on a new one right now, just so you're aware of it. That's something that's kind of regular and natural in the process, but it is very interesting that your clients do see that good, that bad, and that ugly throughout it. And it's our goal in the end to preserve that process and control it as much as possible. So when we walk them through in the very end, all they're doing is smiling. We don't want them to look for the little nicks. It's our job to find the paint blemishes or the issue with this or the issue with that. And COVID did put a little hiccup in the process over the last few years where, well, we got done and well, we're still missing the refrigerator. This was delayed, so we didn't get this done or that done. We've been evolving back into fully getting back into our processes here in the last 6 to 12 months where we're not waiting on stuff anymore and we're not letting lead times and products dictate our process, which is really important to us.
The home that we live in right now was a spec house that was, move-in ready, but it was brand new. And when we did a walkthrough, it was my first time with a new home. We'd bought used before. They handed me like the blue tape, and it was like, okay, if you see anything, mark it and we'll get somebody here to take care of it. But it was put on me to find it. And then I was like, what if I miss one? I don't know what I'm looking for. Oh my gosh, there might be something broken. And if I don't flag it, they're never going to come fix it. Right. Or whatever. And so I spent this whole time like analyzing, looking for all the mistakes and missing all the good things that were done. And your description is so much better, Bryan, of saying it's your job to make sure that that stuff's taken care of. Don't make it the client's job to find the things that need to be fixed, because you want them smiling. You don't want to go, oh my gosh, look at all this wall's covered in blue tape. What in the world is going on here? What have I got myself into? Stuff happens, right? Nail pops are a thing, settling's a thing. I love the way that you've described that and kind of changed that whole focus, because you're not trying to check a box and rush them out the door and move on to the next thing. You're trying to finish the process the way it should.
We see it as a long-term relationship. It's not a you hand them the keys and you're never going to engage again. We're not in the business of a single transaction. I'd love to build another home for these people or their brother or their parents or their grandparents or kids down the road or a lake house. We're a word of mouth business. You're not going to see us on a billboard. You're not going to see us advertising heavily in magazines, because with the type of product that we build, if we have a client who can afford that type of home and they're entertaining for friends, they're likely living in like circles. And if they're speaking highly of us and our work, at the end of the day, showing off our product to their friends by sheer fact of having a dinner party or a football game watch or something like that, we ideally want our product to speak for itself, but the experience has to be good for them to not only fall up like, oh my gosh, look at that cool bar and that wine area that you have. Like, oh my gosh, this was such a cool detail that we didn't envision it. Traditions came up with this great idea. We trusted them. They executed it. And here it is. You got to give them a call if you guys are thinking about it. So we think about that through that lens as much as we can. It's our goal to do follow-ups within certain time frames where folks know that we're not running away. I'll tell them like, hey, you're going to be cleaning something one day, or you're sitting in a chair in a corner that you've never sat in, and you look up at something or look under something at a weird angle, and you're going to say, oh, they missed touch up on that corner. It's not going to be, hey, go down in the basement, go get your paint and take care of it. We have certain things in place where it's like, hey, look, at our 11-month walkthrough, that's something we'll identify all those types of things and we'll come through and get it taken care of for you.
Well, there's the rub, because you have a system in place for being that Johnny on the spot to make sure that the warranties and the oopses are taken care of. But what if you put in place to ensure that you're getting those testimonials? Do you have any processes in place to ensure that you're getting that type of testimonial in the pipeline?
Yeah, I mean, it's always our goal to photo, video, client testimonial at the end of every single build. I'll be the first to admit, again, in the insanity of the first couple of years of the business, sometimes it's one of those like, oh, we didn't get that house documented. We didn't get a testimonial from that house, which that's something I have to remind myself. I mean, we dedicate a year and a half, or sometimes more to every single one of these projects. And in my mind, we'd be foolish to not make the investment of not only the time, but the energy and the expense of getting the photography, getting the video, getting that testimonial, because it is hearing it from your clients, and the experience. And I mean, it's the good and the bad. I'd be the first to admit we're not perfect. We are not perfect at everything. And there's a lot of things that we are trying to grow on as a team. If clients had a pinch point or something that fell below their expectations, that's something, we want to be aware of. We can raise our hand and likely point out, hey, here's the client A, here's the 1 or 2 or 3 things that they'd probably say that didn't go the way they hoped it would have. And we're sure that those could bring up, but it does hit home a little bit more acutely when you hear it come out of their mouth. You got to be able to take feedback. In an industry that we're in, especially on the design side, we did a walkthrough with some out of town clients yesterday, and she said, I'm going to be blunt. She goes, I'm very blunt, and I'm going to tell you what I think. And I said, that's great, because if you're not going to tell me what you think, I don't want to do something that you're not happy with. And then now you've got to live with this decision because no one spoke up. So having that open dialogue and really developing that relationship is super, super important to us, because we want our clients to feel like they can speak up. If it's something that, hey, that's not part of the contracted items that we had, or we can do that, we can make that happen, but we never accounted for something like that in your house. We've got our estimator, we can pull that together really quick. It's going to be $12,000 to make that happen. And now you give someone an option to execute that element that they maybe never really thought about in the beginning, but being able to turn that around quickly, we found is really important.
Well, Bryan, it's clear that customer experience is really important to you. One of the advantages potentially that you have there over some other builders is with your size, right? Because you're working with every client. What thoughts would you have for a builder who's a little larger, who wants to have this kind of white glove customer experience you're describing, but the owner can't work with everybody individually and they have to figure out how to get that through the organization? Any kind of thoughts or tips there?
Sure. Gosh, there's only so many hours in the day. So that hands-on touch is hard to get. Not that my name's on the door, I don't think I'd ever be Keve Homes or anything like that, but clients know the face of who they're buying from, and they do want that face time. They do want time with the owner or whoever's making the decisions, because they say, hey, look, I'm buying a product from Bryan and I want him to be involved in this. Maybe jumping a little bit ahead here, but talking about dreams, I'd love to have a full-time service person working for us. I've got a fantastic project manager who can do just about anything. That's the double-edged sword when it comes with him, is he can do just about anything, and he knows this. If and when he hears this, he's not going to be surprised. But in his mind, it's well, that's only going to take me 15, 20, or 30 minutes. Let me just do it instead of calling the trim carpenter, calling the plumber, calling the electrician, because I don't want to take them away from what they're doing. But as I have to remind him, it's like, but that's taking you away from your job for 30 minutes, and now you're not scheduling and coordinating and updating this or doing that. So, in my mind, that bigger company where someone wants that personal touch, maybe you're not going to get the level of perhaps detail or level of finish in the homes that we build. But if you can really dial in that service component, and you have a XYZ home service guy who can come and can address those little things here and there, so you don't have to wait 2 weeks for the plumber. You don't have to wait 2 weeks for the electrician. Pipe burst, that's a be there today, in an hour type thing. Say there's just a little drip in their faucet. That's not cataclysmic, but it's annoying. If you trust your builder, that plumber is going to show up. But if you've got to look at that dripping faucet every single day for 2 weeks, you're going to start thinking, what else is going on with this house? And you're going to start looking around every corner. It's just a mentality shift where now you're looking for problems. It's on that walkthrough. All I want to do is have people smile and be happy and be excited about the process, not feeling like they need to catch every little thing or they're going to miss their opportunity. So that could be a huge opportunity for a bigger company who has the means for more overhead, where you get Mr. Handyman who's just part of the company, and it's an asset to you as a company that can be leveraged by every single client you have. You mentioned the website. It's funny that you mentioned that, because that was kind of a day one website to get us going. And we've just been so busy and so fortunate with opportunities that Haven't had the chance to update it with any of our current work. So if you did like what you saw there, I promise you everything we're doing now kind of puts everything on our website to shame.
The green kitchens are amazing.
Oh, thank you. I know one you're talking about. GE Cafe featured us nationally after we built that one. So that was a fun one. It took a couple months to source that green tile. It was kind of all based off of that. We brought stuff in from Spain and from South America and from Mexico, just trying to find the right green. And I think after about 30 tries, we found it, and it ended up being a fun one.
Well, Bryan, we do appreciate you sharing so willingly with us today and want to be respectful of your time. Do you have any kind of last words of advice that you'd like to share with our listeners today before we wrap up?
I guess my biggest piece of advice would be don't ever sit still. There's always opportunities out there to grow in every aspect of your business. We're taking our team out to the International Builder Show next month, and that's something I'm really excited about because it's a show that I've never attended as a professional. I think it'll be an opportunity just to open up not only my eyes, but that of my team to see what else is out there. We're very fortunate to have the clients and the builds that we have, and we're able to explore all sorts of really cool details and things like that. But I always know that there's more out there. Don't rest on your laurels. Always look what is out there and know that your processes and every aspect of what you do can always be dialed in, because at the end of the day, it's all about our client. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without having clients, whether you're building a spec home or you're building custom homes or build to suits, however your business is set up. Unless you had someone to buy the product in the end, we wouldn't be here. So keeping clients first and foremost and knowing that they drive the entire experience and the entire process is a good reminder to always be cognizant of.
Awesome. Remember the clients. It's all for them. Love it. Well, Bryan, if somebody wants to connect with you, what's the best way for them to reach out and get in touch?
Sure. Our website is a great place to do that, www.traditionscustombuilders.com. We try and stay pretty active on social media as much as possible. Facebook and Instagram are probably the best ways to do that, and you can find all of our contact information on the web.
Well, thanks again for spending some time with us today. And thank you, everybody, for listening to the Home Builder Digital Marketing Podcast. I'm Greg Beret with Blue Tangerine.
And I'm Kevin Weitzel with Outhouse.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about how Blue Tangerine and Outhouse can help you generate more qualified home buyer leads, visit bluetangerine.com and outhouse.net. If you've enjoyed our show today, please tell a friend, leave us a review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Be sure to join us again on the Home Builder Digital Marketing Podcast.